Indictment.
Here is the sound check. Don't want you guys missing anything.
It's
What's up,
sounding. I'm getting
SBS
a lot of thumbs
Nation?
up from people. Anybody?
I know that was an abrupt beginning to our show, but welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is a podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime, typically with an open where the voiceover guy mispronounces my name. But today we just got right to it because we thought it was starting. As you can see here, they are doing a mic check prior to Ray Tierney, the DA in Suffolk County, coming out, and he's going to tell us that Rex Heuermann has been charged now in the murder of Valerie Mack. She would be the seventh suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders. And this, of course, is what we're waiting on. Keeping an eye on it in the back. We are expecting NYPD detectives David Sarney and Manny Matos to join us momentarily. Let me just kind of walk everybody through this. It is still a ways away here. There's a court hearing for Rex Heuermann. I believe he was indicted this morning again on this seventh charge. Or at least, arraigned on it, I should say. So we are waiting for that to end, that court hearing. There are no cameras. And then again, Ray Tierney, the district attorney for Suffolk County, is expected to speak. Valerie Mack's death, and I'll put up a photo of her. Her death occurred back. Here's some different shots of Valerie. And of course, our thoughts are with her family. Her family is said to be in court today with her. So Valerie Mack was a 24-year-old from Philadelphia. She went missing back in 2000. So now it is basically 25 years ago almost. Suffolk County Police, and this is tough to listen to, so I will take a quick pause if you want to earmuff yourself. But they found her partial remains in Manorville, New York, in November of 2000. However, the rest of her dismembered remains were found 11 years later. 11 years later, in 2011, along Ocean Parkway in Long Island. Now in 2020, so you've got the murder happens in 2000. Some of the remains are found in November of that year. Then you shoot ahead 11 years, and that's where other remains are found in the Gilgo Beach area, but not where the initial remains were found originally. And then 2020, authorities announced that they had positively ID'd the remains as Valerie Mack using genetic genealogy, which the defense here, guy named Michael Brown, who's defending Rex Heuermann, he is going to try to fight the use of IgG or investigative genetic genealogy. I see Darlene D here saying she's a child. She was 24 at the time, but here I don't know her age on the right there, but I would assume it was from younger years. So sad. Yet again, for those who are just joining, this is going to be the seventh murder charge levied against Rex Heuermann. Today is not about him, but let's show this guy so we know the alleged monster we're dealing with. You can see how big he is here, being led out by Suffolk County detectives there on the right, and on the left, he's with Michael Brown, his lead defense attorney, who is he's aggressive. Let's put it that way. I'm just keeping an eye on the press conference itself, waiting to see when it starts. COE, if you're still here, or Space, just bring it up when you see it. And we will bring it to you live. But again, Rex Heuermann, there's going to be a press conference in a few minutes. He is charged in the seventh murder now out on Long Island, this time for Valerie Mack, 24 years old. As I said, her parents or said to be at the court hearing this morning. Again, no cameras in court. In June, prosecutors named Rex Heuermann as a suspect in Valerie Mack's murder. And then they continue to work on it. These 6 other victims, of course, they are as important as all of them combined here, with the 7th one now being named. Here are the 7 victims, but you are looking at Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Sandra Costilla, and Jessica Taylor were the 2 most recent that he was charged with. And then, of course, today you're looking at Valerie Mack. If he is convicted of these charges, this is a absolute, true, living monster among us. So, it's tough. Sometimes covering true crime, it's tough, especially when you have daughters, because this is disturbing. But it looks like, hopefully, there's going to be justice coming for these families. And keep in mind, there's a whole lot more potential victims. Now, some of the other notable news revolving around this case: 3 other states are investigating this. I believe it's New Jersey, South Carolina, and Nevada, the Las Vegas area. So they are doing investigations in those states as well. He's had ties to all 3 of those states. He's already pleaded not guilty to the charges related to the murders of these first 6 that you're seeing here. And of course, today is the 7th. You assume he pleaded guilty in court today. We're about to find out exactly what happened when Suffolk County DA Ray Tierney takes to the podium in a few minutes. Of course, the case involves these multiple victims. It's been ongoing for years and years and years. One of the other people victims that people are looking at quite closely, of course, is this person described simply as Asian Doe, who could be a male. They're not sure, and they're using all kinds of scientific and new technology to try to, continue to link Rex to this other victim. Now, some of the evidence trying Rex to the crimes: you've got burner cell phones, which they can extract a lot of info from now. Pizza crust, there's DNA, discarded crust in Manhattan last year that matched the DNA from the crime scene. That was, of course, when Rex Heuermann was on his way as an architect to his Midtown office, very much like other serial killers. It appears he compartmentalized everything, and so he would one day be an architect, and the next moment a father, maybe, and then the next moment a killer, a savage killer. Also, one of the other links, evidence-wise, is a first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche that was registered to Rex Heuermann, also tied to the murders. So, a little bit on some of the victims. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, a mother from Norwich, Connecticut. She'd been missing since 2007. Her remains were found in 2010. She was connected to Rex Heuermann via DNA evidence. Wife's hair was found with her remains as well. And that, of course, is the woman on the top left. And then you've got Melissa Barthelemy again. You've got Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello. All of these women were between the ages of 22 and 27 years old when they were murdered, and some of them were, in the sex trade. So they are still human beings. No one deserves to die, especially not in this manner. So right now we are awaiting this press conference. Again, it is District Attorney Ray Tierney. We're going to be joined in a few minutes by 2 retired NYPD detectives, David Sarney, who's been on the show, probably has one of the best voices in America, and then Manny Matos, who might have the best New York accent of any person alive. So we are waiting on them. I'm keeping tabs on the press conference here with Space Coast on the West Coast, and Steve Cohen getting us detectives, COE, the glue that is keeping us together, and of course the fantastic mods always here. And thank you, Robin, for the super sticker, much appreciated. And creating through chaos, he is truly the devil, no doubt about that. Look at this. My family's home is on the road, Halsey Manor, where Mac and Taylor were found. They were looking for more evidence earlier this year. The area is part of the Pine Barrens. Interesting. Good morning to Jennifer coming to us. And by the way, tonight, just so you know, we are back 7 p.m. Eastern time, and we are doing a follow-up on the Alexander brothers, Oren, Alone, and Tal from Miami, who had a huge real estate empire. Daddy owned something called Kent Security, which is one of the larger private security firms in the country. And the three brothers, a set of twins, and one other brother, Tal, are arrested. They're being held. The two brothers, the twins, were granted bail, but are being held because of federal charges. We are going to be covering that tonight. Also, there's a fourth person, a cousin, who is on the run, or I should say is on vacation, he informed the court.
My office filed a superseding indictment charging the defendant Yerman with a seventh charged murder in the second degree for the murder of Valerie Mack, which occurred in 2000. I remind everyone that all of these cases and all of these murders are just allegations, and we look forward to proving them in court. As I've previously stated, the work of the Gilgo Task Force is ongoing and continuing. And when I said that, I meant what I said. The defendant is now charged with the murder of 7 young women: Sandra Castilla from 1993, Valerie Mack from 2000, Jessica Taylor from 2003, Maureen Brainerd Barnes from 2007, Melissa Bartholomew from 2009, Megan Waterman from 2010 in June, and Amber Costello from September of 2010. Again, they occurred between 1993 and 2010. We are here because the Gilgo Task Force has continued to work together to obtain not only evidence for the charged crimes, but has continued to work on other uncharged crimes as well. And I am grateful for the great work that the Gilgo Task Force has done. Of course, not only my office and my team, but the other agencies who have worked with us. And we're gonna talk about that in a while. As you've also probably noticed, we here with us today are the victims' family members. I think pretty much every charged victim, their family members are here. Specifically, we're joined by Joanne and Edwin Mack, who are the parents of Valerie Mack. Through the grand jury process, we get to learn a little bit about our victims, and we did that through the Mack family. And Valerie is very similar to the other victims in this case. Extraordinary person. The family are extraordinary people, and we are honored to prosecute this case for Valerie and her family, or on behalf of Valerie and her family. And again, I think the Mack family is emblematic of the other families in this case who have steadfastly stood by their loved ones and jealously guarded their memories. And we have nothing but respect and admiration for those victims' families. We also, speaking of gratitude, I want to mention our task force partners, some of whom I haven't mentioned here before, but of course we have our great sheriffs, Suffolk County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Errol Toulon Jr. I know I spoke with Under Sheriffs Steve Kios and Keith Taylor. They're here to support us, and as well as the task force, our Suffolk County Police Department. We have Acting Commissioner Rob Waring, who I spoke to, and I saw Deputy Police Commissioners Kevin Catalina and Daryl Simmons. So I know, among others, we have this homicide squad led by Kevin Byer, as well as Sergeant Stephen Geyer, Inspector Sean Barron from the Suffolk County PD is with us here today. I want to thank the Suffolk County PD, both the agency as well as the Homicide Bureau, for their work on this and many other cases. We have the New York State Police, Major Stephen Udise, Captain Ken Gine, and his team, who've been instrumental in the task force and the great work that they've done. And I want to thank them. We have FBI. Supervisory Special Agent Don Osbacher's here. Special Agent Craig Mateo, I believe, is here. But the FBI has been and continues to be tremendous help in this case, and we certainly want to thank them going forward. And we really appreciate the work that they've done and the work that they continue to do for us. United States Secret Service, I don't know if they're here, but they've been assisting with a lot of the electronic devices, so we want to certainly thank them as well. New York City OCME, somehow I neglected to thank them through all of the various superseding indictments. Specifically, I want to thank their anthropology unit and their forensic biology department. They were working here in Suffolk during the commission of many of these crimes, and so they've come back to Suffolk to assist us in our investigation and prosecution of these cases, and they've done a tremendous job, and we certainly want to thank them, as well as our medical examiner's office in Suffolk County, led by Odette Hall. Dr. Hall has been tremendous in this case. Of course, our own Suffolk County Crime Lab with Director Constance Dinkle and her team. They have, again, like all of these partners, not only they help us with the Gilgo cases, they help us with so many more cases, and we certainly thank them. I want to thank my own team, led by Chief Investigator Rich Zacharis, the ADAs who I've worked with, who are doing a tremendous job, and everyone. Our team, we have an army of people from my office who is really doing a great job, and we want to thank them. A case of this magnitude takes the assistance of so many different moving parts, and we certainly thank all of the folks who people don't even know about, who have really helped us significantly. It's more than it's just a literal army of people. So we certainly appreciate that. As we said, we are not limiting this investigation to Gilgo Beach. We've moved off of the beach. I think that if you had asked me when we started this, could we potentially get to the place where we are now? I think that we thought that this was a possibility, and we're just very happy that we're here. So we're going to continue to work these cases. We're going to continue to prepare these cases for trial. Regarding the murder of Valerie Mack, most of it is in the discovery letter, so I'm not going to repeat. Suffice to say that Valerie's body was discovered on November 19, 2000 in a wooded area off of Mill Road by hunters. From there, we worked the case. According to the bail document, as you see, the evidence is we have mitochondrial DNA from a hair that was found on the body of Valerie Mack, which was portion of the body of Valerie Mack, which was found off of Mill Road. That hair, mitochondrial DNA analysis was performed, and that hair was consistent with the mitochondrial DNA profiles of both Asa Ehrman and her daughter, Asa Ellerup, and her daughter, Victoria Ehrman. And I believe the numbers are to an exclusion of 99.96% of the population. Similar to the other cases, we then sent that hair out for nuclear DNA analysis, and because it's nuclear DNA, it's much more discriminating, and the profile came back. The most conservative estimate was 1.31 times 10 to the 356 power. So again, you take that 1.31, you move the decimal point over 356 times, and that's the number that you get, which excludes that percentage of the population, but includes, in this case, it was, I believe it was Victoria Yearman again. So that's where we are. We in the bail letter we've placed some other evidence with regard to the planning document, specifically, if you recall, the HK document, which we've referred to as the planning document. We see that one of the dump sites which were discussed in that document was Mill Road, which was the road that Valerie was found in the vicinity of. We also have seen during our searches a number of articles with regard to the Gilgo Beach investigation in various publications like People. There was a New York Times Magazine article about the Gilgo investigation, which was found in the defendant's safe, as well as other news articles in which the discovery of the bodies of Sandra, Jessica, and Valerie are found. And those newspapers were retained by the defendant, as well as information when Valerie was identified, when she was positive, when she went from being, I believe she was Jane Doe number 6. And then through the work of the FBI, we were able to establish that it was Valerie, that the body was Valerie's. There was internet searches done from devices controlled by the defendant at or around the time that she was first identified. So that's the evidence in this case. Again, it's just that, it's evidence, it's allegations, and we look forward to proving them at court. But I'll turn it over for questions now. We spoke to the Mack family. I don't believe that they want to give a statement at this time. I can tell you that I had the opportunity to speak. They are very grateful. They are very grateful for the small bit of closure that the task force has been able to provide, and it was very interesting to us. And well, I'll step back. They're thankful for all the investigators. Stemming right back from the very origins of the case and the diligent work that was done in this case, and they're grateful for that. And I had the opportunity to share with the Mack family the reactions of some of the older investigators when we reached out to them and told them that we had gotten some traction in the case. The excitement on those, the palpable excitement that we got from those investigators, made it obvious to us that the lives of these women matter. And we as investigators, we understand that. Obviously, no one understands it more than the families. So again, we're just, delighted and honored and privileged to be able to work with these families. And again, there's not so much we can do, but at least we provide them with a small measure of closure.
Sir, the deal application, the evidence and the allegations you mentioned, things that are found either in the home or his office. I wasn't sure if that was the Manhattan office, but you talked also about the newspaper articles. There was evidence of a plumber being called to the home. Could you go over any of that? Yeah.
So, if you look at the planning document, it's discussed of foam, drain foaming cleaner, and issues with regard to that. And at around the time of the commission of this crime, there was a plumber did go to the Yearman residence.
So you're thinking that some of the murders could have taken place in the home?
Well, I mean, obviously, we don't have to specifically prove where they happened. We just, we have other elements that we need to prove. But I think if you look at this case, if you look at the planning document, if you look at the adhesive staining on the walls and sort of enclosed pattern. I certainly, all of that is consistent with the commission of those murders occurring at the home.
The attorney, Peach's toddler daughter was found very close on Ocean Parkway to Alabama. Would that lead you to believe that no one could be responsible for the murder of the toddler and Peaches?
Doesn't matter what I believe, as I say, matters what I can prove. And, what we've done, and to the extent we've been able to have success, is you take each one of these cases, you take each one of the location of the bodies, and you use that as a separate investigation and a separate crime scene until you're specifically given clues which allow you to put them together. So until we're able to do that, we won't speak on that, and we speak through indictments.
Well, quick follow-up. When Rex Heuermann loudly proclaimed in court that he's not guilty of any of these charges, just your thought.
Listen, that's the process, and right now he's absolutely right. These are allegations, and it's our obligation to prove them. So we're going to be held to our burden. We're going to be held to our task, and we look forward to doing that.
Can you comment on whether or not there's any evidence that Asa Elrep was out of town when Valerie Mack disappeared? It's
not included in the bail letter, so we're not going to discuss that at this time.
Consistent throughout.
With regard to the other, we've been able to establish that, but we was not included in this bail application. And the thing is, we're precluded oftentimes about talking about things that have not been publicly disclosed or disclosed in court. So, all of the bail letters, that is, the evidence that which has been disclosed. Obviously, we have other evidence in this case. I don't believe we have any specific evidence with regard to, the family's whereabouts.
Throughout this case, the defense has raised questions about whether the DNA evidence is enough. I mean, can you talk about why you felt it was enough to charge him with this murder?
Well, fortunately for us, we're not going to have to come to the question of whether or not it's, just the DNA evidence is enough, because it's our position. We have a lot of other evidence, and if you could go through all the bail documents to see a portion of that evidence, obviously not all of that evidence, because we have other evidence. But as the judge said in court today, this is a cutting edge DNA, the SNP, single nucleotide polymorphisms, that technology which we're using in this way in New York State. It has been used in other places in the country a handful of times, but it has never been used in New York State. So whenever that happens, there'll be a challenge. There'll be a hearing called a Fry hearing, which the judge has set down. And the defense will make their arguments. We'll make our arguments. I anticipate having a hearing on that issue before the judge, and then it's up to the judge to provide the decision as whether or not the technology used in this case is scientifically accepted, and whether or not it'll be admissible in this case. So that's upcoming litigation.
Yeah. Fry,
Hi.
The Fry hearing you just mentioned, that's coming up in January. Will there be any motions on the part of the defense to break up these cases into like a number of cases as far as victims?
Well, I think the judge indicated on the record that he wanted a Fry DNA hearing motion filed by the defense by January, I believe. And then he also said, at the very least, and then he mentioned the severance motion. So I think that whether or not the defense decides they want to sever the case, that motion, we would anticipate it coming, if not in January, then soon thereafter. Yes.
How did you guys view those newspaper and magazine clippings?
Well, I mean, again, what we've done with this case, what we've done with the phone records, the financial records, the DNA, the internet searches, and the various things that he has kept since going all the way back to 1993, it's evincing his intent. It's evincing, his interest in the case. So we think that it's, circumstantial evidence of his, that persistent interest in the case, the victims, the methods being used to, starting back in 2010, all the methods used by law enforcement to try to catch the murderer of some of the individuals on Gilgo. All of those things are evince a certain mental state and intent. So we think when taken with all the evidence, it paints a certain picture. Again, the picture will need to prove at trial.
You just mentioned the evidence, the tape patterns on the ceiling, for the trial in the home. Were those all? I know those were in different areas, but were they all in the basement?
Yeah. And if you look at the planning document, he's talking about push pins because, there's when I say he, I mean the document mentions push pins, and then and that the tape is no good, presumably because it creates a adhesive stain on the walls.
That's all in the basement.
It's all in the basement.
And that was also kept as souvenirs? I mean, are you thinking that the newspapers and magazines were also mementos for him to keep feeling good about himself?
I scored a touchdown in high school. Still have that article. Just one.
That can't visit the site.
I'm sorry. Yes, at around significant times in the investigation.
Is there a number of times that he visited the site? Timing was along with Mac's findings.
Yeah, I believe it was the identification of Valerie Mack as the victim.
Was there other times after the?
I believe there was. I don't specifically have that information for you. We can get that for you though.
Any anticipation when this is finally going to go to trial, or are you content to sort of leave it like this while you investigate numerous other murders?
No, I'm not content at all. And it doesn't really matter whether I'm content or not. It matters whether the judge is content. And I can tell you the judge is less than content. And that's his job. This is a very active and aggressive judge that tries many cases throughout the year, and he's eager to try this case. So he's doing his job, and he's pushing us. He's pushing the defense. He's pushing us. Obviously, now when you're talking about separate murders going back from 1993, you have missing persons reports from other outside jurisdictions in New York, outside jurisdictions from the state. All of that, we have tips, all of that, you have forensic material and evidence. All of that has to be provided to the defense, which we're working through. So it is a difficult task. I would say that the judge understands that, but he's also pushing us. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and comply with the judge and get ready. The first step, it sounds like the first step is going to be the Fry hearing. So we have a lot of work to do with that. That's going to, presumably they will have experts. We're going to have experts, and we'll have that hearing. Well, I mean, I think the judge said late February, or if not late February, perhaps early March of the ensuing year. Yeah.
So is it safe to presume that there would be no more, that this would be the last indictment before trial?
This is the most unique case that I think I've ever done, and we go all the way back to its origins, and we talk about the uniqueness of this case, where we took a cold case, we developed a suspect, and then we were off and running, and then you had this tension between putting your case together for the grand jury, maintaining the secrecy of the case, pre-indictment, and then also providing for public safety. And then, the tension between all that resulted in the case coming down in July. Well, now we have this tension where we have to prepare what we've charged for trial. But we also have to continue to investigate all, and again, we have a cold case unit, that we're working with the Suffolk County PD, state troopers, federal partners, Suffolk County sheriffs. So we're working on those cold cases. So the business of Suffolk County law enforcement cannot stop with this case. So there's always that tension. We've got to provide this case for trial. This judge will not take any excuses, so we've got to do that. But we've got an obligation to continue to investigate these cases and provide closure to as many families as we can. And that's whether or not these result in additional charges for anyone. And obviously we don't know that until we charge. But that the answer to that question unfortunately changes on a daily basis depending upon the evidence we receive and the input we receive. Yeah, he says that, he wants, again, he was a defense attorney for a long time. He was a prosecutor for a long time. He's a judge for a long time. He's done a lot of these cases from every conceivable vantage point. So he understands, but by the same token, he's pushing us. So, that's, we have to, first and foremost, we have to comply with the court, which we intend to do.
Mr. Attorney, what's the status of the funds that you had said were tied up?
Still tied up.
And what about other victims, Karen Brigada and the other, unsolved murders?
Yeah, I mean, again, we started the cold case unit. We have a number of cases. Karen Brigada is one of those victims. So we'll continue to work those cases. But as we've been saying, those cases, those bodies, they're separate investigations, separate crime scenes until we can speak to an indictment otherwise, whether they're related or not.
Are you hindered in any way because you don't have the money yet?
I mean, I think to a certain extent, law enforcement, everybody in life is hindered because you never have enough resources. But, I think we're managing very well. It would be nice to have that money, but we have great partners. We have our Suffolk County executive, our Suffolk County legislature is very sympathetic to what we're doing. So, it would be great to have that money, but it's not like, if something needs to be done, it gets done. The big difference, I think, is it's just, as far as it's not, rocket science providing all of this digital evidence, but it is important and it's specific work. And the more hands you have on it, the quicker it'll get done. And having that federal money would be very helpful in that regard.
DA, I just wanted to give others an option to speak if they wanted to. I know Valerie and Mac's family are not ready. Are there any?
I think Ms. Allred is going to be having a press conference after me. So I believe she represents most of the victims in this case. So I'll leave that to her and to them.
So in the new bail application, one of the articles, it indicated that it was found in the basement vaults. Can you clarify, is that like a vault where, is it the entire thing? Is this where you found the tape and the push pins? Like, can you elaborate on the vault?
Yeah, the vault is just where the gun vault.
Okay, so that's where
it was behind it was locked.
So in addition to the guns, there were other things
There was
you locked in there?
that specific document, among other things.
So it's in the gun vault, in safe, inside the gun vault?
Well,
Inside the gun.
it was inside the gun vault.
But not locked in.
And the gun vault, in effect, is a giant safe.
DA?
Yes.
You've said that the evidence is leading you to believe that murders could have taken place in the basement with the adhesive tape stains and the reference to push pins. Is it your belief that most of the murders might have taken place there and he was comfortable in that environment and it wouldn't have happened outside the jurisdiction of his home?
Well, again, belief and you look at the HK document and you look at, the HK document evinces two things clearly. it evinces intent, most obviously, but it also evinces careful and meticulous planning. So, and there's certainly a modus operandi with regard to the commission of these cases. Certainly, there are a lot of similarities between, Jessica and Valerie, and I think that's, and again, the victims that were found off of Gilgo, at least partially, in some instances, that we found them earlier. Right? So we had more evidence, more indication of what happened to them. But I mean, if you look at all the victims, and then in the context of all the evidence in the case, it would certainly appear that the house figured prominently. And again, when with many, if not all, of the victims, we were able to establish that the family was out of the house at the time of the time the victims went missing.
What I noticed in the document is that it says that Valerie Mack was killed or had been dead between 2 and 8 weeks. And so that suggests a longer period of time of when she was actually killed. I mean, do you have any reason to believe she was kept in the house for a long time before she was brought to the woods?
Yeah, well, we're not going to speak to that. I mean, I think we the only thing we're able to do is estimate through forensic experts, given the condition of the crime scene, and that's where that 2 and 8 period time frame comes from.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
So that was obviously Suffolk County DA Ray Tierney, and here's Gloria Allred. So I think this is coming right up on the heels as well. Let's listen to her. She is the attorney for the victims' families. I'm not sure if it is just this latest victim, Valerie Mack, or more, but this is obviously going to be victims' families behind her. These are the victims' families, you'd have to assume. But here is Gloria Allred, still going strong. She's probably about Carm's age. Carm, I know you're watching. She should be an example to you, this woman, along with Ann Burgess. Here we go. Oh, space. Can you? Yeah, there you go.
Good morning. My name is Attorney Gloria Allred. I'm a victims' rights attorney representing the family members of some of the victims in this case. The defendant, Rex Harriman, has been indicted and is facing criminal charges related to the homicides of my client's loved ones. He has entered a plea of, quote, not guilty, end quote, to the charges against him for the victims whose family members I represent. Here with me today are my clients. And if you would like to just raise your hand when I say your name, that would be fine. And I'll just give their first name. But if they wish later, they can also give their last name. Lynn, who is the mother of victim Melissa Bartholomew. Lynn. Amanda, sister of victim Melissa. Nicolette, daughter of victim Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Elizabeth, mother of victim Jessica Taylor. Jasmine, cousin of victim Jessica Taylor. Elizabeth, aunt of victim Megan Waterman. We are here today because we wish to support the family members of victim Valerie Mack. We want her family to know that they are not alone in their grief. My clients have also lost a loved one as a result of a homicide. And as a result, many of them have experienced despair, depression, anger, trauma, and grief that results from such a tragic loss. As Queen Elizabeth once said, quote, "Grief is the price that we pay for love," end quote. Even though what is alleged in the superseding indictment is stated to have taken place decades ago, the impact of the loss and the knowledge that this is not a missing persons case, but is instead a first or second degree murder case, has caused the pain that they feel to cut to their hearts. Their loss and what their loved one may have suffered before she was killed has affected them emotionally, and in some cases physically as well, even now, decades later in 2024. Let's be clear, none of the victims deserve to die. They were all innocent, and they were just trying to earn some funds to support themselves and their families. They were, and they are, loved, and they are missed every day by those who knew them and who had a strong bond with them. My clients have traveled here today to say to Valerie Mack's family that we see you, we hear you, and we ask you to accept our condolences for your loss. My clients have been here at many court hearings because they want their loved ones to be remembered. And they want to give their loved ones a voice through their friends and family members. And in addition, they support each other. Most of all, however, they want justice for those who were murdered and who were buried at Gilgo Beach. There can be no healing without justice, and no justice unless whoever committed these most serious crimes against the victims is held accountable in a court of law. My clients also want to know the truth of what happened to those they loved and still love. They want both the truth and justice, because there can be no justice without the truth, and there can be no truth without justice. These family members whom I represent have shed many tears throughout this process. We thank them for the courage that they have demonstrated in order to honor their loved ones and win the legal justice that they all deserve. And at this point, while they are not going to be answering any questions today, we would like to show our support for the family of Valerie Mack, and to do so by presenting a flower in honor of Valerie. So, thank you. The first person would be Lynn, who is mother of victim Melissa Bartholomew. Okay, thank you. Amanda, sister of victim Melissa. Thank you. Nicolette, daughter of victim Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Melissa, sister of victim Maureen Brainerd Barnes.
Elizabeth, you stay here. You stay here.
They don't have to come with me, I could go. Oh, Maureen. You know your love, you know love.
Jasmine? No, Jasmine's here. Yes, Jasmine. Cousin of victim Jessica Taylor. Elizabeth, aunt of victim Megan Waterman. I don't know if there's anyone here that I don't represent who is a member of a family of a victim. If so, I'm happy to have you present roses. Okay, this will be for me. Okay, if there are any questions, be happy to take them, but the victims are not available for interviews today.
I just wanted to ask if any of,
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I wanted to ask if any of the family members, what their reaction was to what he had to say in court today.
The not, what, when he said not guilty? I don't know if anyone wants to answer that, but,
I heard somebody scoff.
okay, well, you know, it'll be for a jury to decide if as and when it gets to a jury, if the prosecutor has proven his case beyond a reasonable doubt, very high burden of proof, the highest burden of proof in the law. And he certainly has a right, that is the defendant does, to say not guilty. And that is his position. And under the law, he is presumed innocent unless and until he is found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. So he can say it until he's blue in the face, but really what matters is what the evidence shows. And of course, he has a right to take the witness stand and testify if he so chooses, or not testify if he would like to invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination. So we'll have to wait and see. But I can tell you this. This group behind me are some of the most courageous people I have ever met. They have been through such horrific experiences, and they support each other. They sacrifice to come here. They try to show how strong they are, but they shed many tears when they're alone and when they have to see this accused person in the courtroom. So they will be here, and they will be here, and they will be here until all the evidence is in and everything is done that can be done to identify other victims and to see if those victims should result in a connection to the defendant. And that'll be something for the grand jury to decide as well. So thanks very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Folks, you get one? And that, of course, is famed victims' rights attorney, almost always representing women, Gloria Allred, who's actually, I believe, makes her home in the Los Angeles area, out on the other coast today, representing the victims' families here. This is obviously the most heartfelt, touching part of today, and we're going to get to the news in just 1 second. Just want to welcome Manny Matos, retired NYPD detective, and David Sarney, retired NYPD detectives. Real quick before we get to them, and appreciate them both being here, and we'll take some of your questions. You know, I believe Gloria Allred said her own family was impacted by murder, and then she listed off the names of the other victims' family members. So it was incredibly emotional. These families have been going through this. I believe the earliest victim is like 1993, which is just a crazy amount of time to have having had to deal with all this. Then you saw at the end there that they presented flowers to the family and the parents of Valerie Mack. And she is the headline today. Valerie Mack is the headline. Suffolk County DA Raymond Tierney, he came out and announced a superseding indictment. So Rex Heuermann was charged with the murder of Valerie Mack, the seventh victim now in this case. This is Valerie here. And here are the other victims. So David Sarney, I'll start with you. Obviously a huge moment. Again, this has been going on for decades now, but really in earnest just for the last few years, because the prior DA administration and police force had some issues. They've had some of their assets frozen. You heard questions about, is that kind of handcuffing them? And DA Tierney said yes. They've had federal assets, or assets, I should say, frozen by the feds, I believe. So anyway, this is a superseding indictment. Rex Heuermann was in court. He categorically denied all these allegations, which is usually what a lot of people do. What is your initial reaction to now a seventh victim here that he's charged with? Oh, you're muted, David.
I just wanted to hear them talk through this, and I know the Suffolk County DA has been fantastic on this, and this investigation was spearheaded, reinvigorated by retired Chief Harrison from Chief of Detectives of the NYPD, and when he came to Suffolk Commission, brought it back. This is something that I think many people, sadly have to deal with. This is not the end, and this is the issue: is who there are others out there, and I think Manny may say this, that they will never be identified because these are the families that cared. And Rex is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, as we all know, and there's damning circumstantial evidence, DNA evidence that points toward him. A lot of things are there directing us to this, but I think the trail of Rex Heuermann is not just in Long Island, wherever he's been before. This was everything he's played, the books he had, the documentation that was found that, put these things into play. This guy, just, speculating on this, he's a monster. From what you're reading about this is a person who, gets all the evidence that is pointing to this, an individual who was meticulous in his planning and murdering of these women. His selection of the women, his manner in which he would murder them, the sadistic, masochistic, or the sadistic ways in which he tortured them, and upwards of days. And fortunately, the investigation continued, and science helped solve this. But I'll tell you this: the detectives who started these cases, phenomenal work. Yeah. This would not be solved without the work of those guys.
There you go. Yeah, there was some problems with the previous administration within the police force. But Manny Matos, to you, also retired NYPD detective. I mean, this is a huge case in your guys' area. Long Island, New York, New Jersey. Obviously, it has a ripple effect around the world. As David just said, if these allegations are true, and it appears that it's heavily leaning that way, this guy is an absolute monster. I mean, an atrocious monster, not even a human being. What is your reaction now to hearing a seventh victim? And you heard David say there'll be many victims that might never be ID'd.
This is heartbreaking. I think you just witnessed, when you see the families, now you witness why we do what we do. You do it for the families that they can't, imagine the loss of a loved one. This affects everybody. I mean, I had an aunt that was also, murdered. So I can feel what the victims are feeling. I feel like these families, and this hurts. And then it's not over. This is the beginning. Now you got to go to trial, and you got to go to court, and you got to relive every single detail that this piece of crap did to these women. And that's going to be the toughest part. And then the challenges that the defense is going to have now. I mean, what the prosecutor is the money. You have so much money invested because you have so much evidence. They don't have the money. They're waiting for this federal money to get in there so they can spend money and get some more evidence and analyze some of this stuff. So this is heartbreaking.
Yeah, they're like hamstrung right now because there's an investigation going on. So their funds have been tied up. And you heard that question. And DA Tierney said that it is affecting to some degree this ongoing investigation. But with that said, and I'll just recap some of the things that the DA here said, that the investigation obviously is ongoing, even with their hands tied financially. He did obviously at the onset introduce Joanne and Edwin Mack. Those are Valerie Mack's parents. And you see these photos. That is Valerie Mack with her sister, and obviously during better times. But you see that the parents, Joanne and Edwin, they've gotten older. There's no surprise there. This murder happened back in 2000. And just nice to see that they are, at least seeing the beginning of the justice process play out. David, to you, DA Tierney talked about the DNA. He specifically mentioned hairs of both Asa Elrip and the daughter, Victoria Huerman, being found on at least one of the victims. And, he's talking about a Fry hearing, which is a hearing that relates to scientific evidence. What's your gut telling you? I mean, is this kind of this IGG, this investigative genetic genealogy? Is the judge going to allow this in?
I don't see a reason not to, as long as you have the science to back it up and support that evidence that's being, that was analyzed, the mitochondrial, the nuclear DNA, the testing that's there, and there's nothing going to say that this person, this is what defense attorneys are going to do, and they should, because they have to defend their clients vigorously. But the benefit of this is, it wasn't just you're talking about DNA recovered from the bodies, which then how would the body have that DNA if it wasn't linked back to the residence? And that's the one benefit. I mean, this is why the investigation has been so thorough and so quietly kept close to the chest, is because you're tying DNA from relations of Rex to him by the residents. So how would it would be almost impossible to think about this, that detectives could plant this. And that might be something they're going to try to do, because defense attorneys will attack evidence, property, chain of custody, documentation, which they should do. But this is beneficial to the prosecution, because no one would have even thought of being able to have that being somewhere where Rex was. And if it was Rex's DNA, they could probably do something else. But there's no connection between the victims and the daughter and the wife. There's no connection, which is beneficial. So I can't see a judge saying this unless they're going to try to deal with the recovery of the evidence or the chain of custody. I don't see an issue with this. This should not. I don't think it's going to get suppressed.
Okay, there you go. So you're hearing from retired NYPD Detective David Sarney saying he does not think that the DNA evidence here will get suppressed. There was a comment up about how we love our Leos, but here we go, right here from Doc K. Manny, love our law enforcement officers, but every case takes a piece of them, puts into perspective how much they sacrifice. And I'm glad David said, this would not be solved, obviously, without the work of the detectives. These are the victims. But Manny, when you're working a case, and this is as big as they come, how much does it weigh on you to solve it, to get answers for the family members who we just saw?
I think some of us, we take it personal. We go out, we go aggressively looking to get answers for the families, and also talk for the victims. Your job is to basically try to help the victims say something they can't say because they're no longer here. And I mean, Rodney Harris, who was our chief here in New York, when he went out there, when they started this task force, thank God he went out there. I mean, he knew how important this was to get done. And I think they got a big break when they got everybody together and they were actually able to investigate this case, because in '93 they kind of had the car identified and they could have probably done more, but because they had their issues in Suffolk County, they never did it.
Ray Tierney said obviously that the lives of these women matter. He was asked about, what he thinks of Rex Heuermann. He says it doesn't matter what I think or what I believe. It's what the evidence, where it directs you. So that's interesting. He also mentioned something new that I don't know that we've heard about, or maybe bits and pieces of it have come out. I haven't not heard about it, but apparently a plumber was there at the time. So who's obviously a witness to some of this. And so that is making people wonder if a lot of these murders didn't just take place right in the home. Now, in these other 6 cases, I think they know that the wife, Asa Ellerup, was out of town, but that has not been confirmed. The DA said this time around for this particular case involving Valerie Mack. David, I wanted to ask you, because this DNA evidence is going to be huge in this case. And Ray Tierney mentioned SNP DNA, and I got to be honest, I never heard of it until just now. It is single nucleotide polymorphism. I don't want to put you on the spot. I know you're a detective, not a scientist, but what do we know about this form of DNA?
Oh, I will tell you, back in the 90s and 2000s, this didn't exist, this type of DNA testing and analysis. So this has become much finer. As you can hear, the numbers and the connections from the DNA recovered at the scene to the donor, or the donor on this, is astronomical. So that's the benefit of science with this, that the science is assisting in this identification. Because as I said this before, and I'll always say this in these cases, what detectives do at the scene at that time, at that moment, matters. And Manny could say that too. The crime scene, how it's handled by the investigators, was meticulous, able to recover that DNA evidence. And granted, we didn't have the ability to analyze it then the way we can now, has changed exponentially, and it benefited that. And that's why I think this case was brought back into the fold, because we knew there was new styles of analyzing this DNA, analyzing evidence of forensic and trace evidence, and this has been beneficial. So, but it will not have been done without that meticulous investigation by the detectives who walked in there.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is, I've learned that just doing this show, that the minute those homicide detectives or FBI agents get in there, that scene is going to be a big part of the trial. And so they've got to take a lot of careful steps to ensure that defense attorneys, whose job it is to throw doubt into the air, can't throw too much doubt into the air. And it appears that these detectives have done a good job with these first 7 victims. The scary part is there could be a lot more where they came from. I mean, Manny, speaking of that, there's investigations going on in at least 3 other states, which I believe are New Jersey, South Carolina, Nevada, of course, Las Vegas, a big spot where he went. What's going on, do you think, in those other states? If you have, I mean, I know you're not privy to like private information, but what do you think's going on, from your experience, that seems so hard from an investigative standpoint to try to get evidence this many years later? We don't know when he actually stopped the killings, but what's the process like for those out-of-state investigators?
Well, they're going to do it just like everybody else. They're going to try to process their crime scene and get all the resources they need to try to get a nexus into this case. And I think that's going to be the challenging part, because the time. I think the DA was just saying that because now you have this discovery law, you have to give the defense evidence that you're going to use in the prosecution. And I think that's what's hard. As things get developed and new stuff comes in, they don't have the time to analyze it and then give it to the defense attorney. So I think that's the problem they're going to have, the challenges of timing, of getting this of discovery to the defense.
Now, obviously Manny is discussing the peripheral investigations outside of the state of New York. But David, to you, within Suffolk County, what is going on for these investigators? I mean, if you had a sense of how many people are looking at this actively day to day, what do they do?
Well, they obviously was a task force involved, and D. Tierney was talking about the cold case squad getting involved. So you're going to have a team of detectives going over this. You're going to have a lead investigator, as you for any of these type of homicide cases, especially this massive amount of evidence. And they're going to they're tying this everything, because now your lead is your suspect is dealing with 7 murders allegedly done by the subject here. So you have to really go over that evidence, and the prosecutor's going to be there. They've been walking hand in hand with it. So it's not going to be somewhere where just one detective is trying to handle all of this. You're going to have a team both of investigators, detectives, and also prosecutors who are really coordinating this effort to marshal the evidence in the best way of putting this all together. So when this goes to trial, and it's going to go to trial, obviously, when this goes to trial, they will not leave anything to miss, anything to pass that's been missed, lost, or anything like that. The way they've handled this case and this investigation has been very quiet, been very controlled, which has been a great aspect, because a lot of times you have leaks in these types of cases. You didn't have anything. Once you had the arrest, and then you've seen the cascading of, based on the evidence recovered from the initial arrest of Rex from the other murders. So now this is building. The out-of-state ones, I guarantee you they've checked VICAP, the Violence Criminal Apprehension Program. They've probably checked through all that. They're looking at places where he's been. And it looks like, from what you're seeing now, from the evidence, and I want to say what you've seen in the paperwork, he's been honing his craft as he's been doing this. So I'm going to pretty much say he's been practicing somewhere else. And now he honed his craft and he brought it back home. So that's why you're seeing a lot of this investigation. And depending on those states, depending on those, how they handle it, how the police handle it, how the detectives handle it, they may not have been as meticulous as the investigators here, but you're hoping that they were. Because if you're dealing with, unfortunately, and this is why I think, you see a lot of these serial killers going after sex workers and transients, because they don't think anyone's going to look for them. So these might be people that no one's ever looking for, that he's gotten away with. So hopefully, as this goes on, you're not just going to see him being, going to trial on this. There may be trials outside New York for him.
Wow. That is a very scary thought, that he was kind of working on his craft out of state. So that makes you wonder what he did outside the borders of Long Island and New York. Manny, a lot of people, and look, I'm just asking a question, not pointing the finger, but there are a lot of people who are saying, what about the wife? What about the daughter? Ray Tierney made it clear he did not know if the wife was there or not for this particular case, or at least he wasn't releasing the information. And then there have been some strange drawings made by the daughter, Victoria. At this point, do you think that they've been fully ruled out, or is that something that they are still working on? How does that work?
No, they're not going to be fully ruled out. I think, like, and the DA just mentioned it before, this case is still developing, and and there may be more indictments, there may be more people involved. This is ongoing. Every single day, the more you find evidence and the more you analyze stuff, you may find that there are more people involved. So no, it's not an automatic, they're excluded from anything. But this guy, we know from his profile, he's a psycho. This guy was a piece of crap. So he led a secret life, that he might have kept away from his wife and his daughter. And this guy was that good at it. And who knows, this started back in 93. So he had his own little man cave downstairs. Maybe they never went downstairs. Who knows how he treated his wife and daughter? They weren't allowed to go downstairs. So
yeah. So obviously they're still questioning them. This is an interesting era. Still, they're still in play. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Sherry Douglas here. To David, if he is charged in another state and is held, and the trial is held there, and it's a death penalty state. I mean, this is a lot of what ifs right here. But is there the possibility of the death penalty potentially in another state? Like, would New York give that up?
I couldn't say. I mean, that's something that would be up to the courts to do something like that, and the prosecutors to decide on that. That would be way out. We're not even close to a trial yet, so there's still a lot of things ongoing, and we're looking right now at 7 murders that he has been arrested and he's indicted for. So I think we'll focus on that before we start, worrying about prosecutions outside the state. But I will tell you, they're tracking everything that's gone on, and when they go put this, and then they've been looking at this, and they've said these were people that were missing, and someone cared, and that matters.
And David, just to couple this question, look, in no way am I saying that the daughter Victoria and Asa are guilty here, but you've got to look at every possibility. That's another thing I've learned from investigators. But David, what about if, and I'm saying hypothetically here, Asa was home at the time of this, or some of the others, and sort of had an idea but turned a blind eye? Is she guilty according to the law in that case?
That's something up to the prosecutor to see what they do. How complicit were they? Were they complicit in involvement? If they were, and right now there's nothing that leads there, but we don't know yet. All we know is at times, what's being recovered primarily has been DNA remnants from the family and not from Rex. So that's something interesting. Is how did that happen? How did that transfer take place? But it could happen anywhere. He lived in the house. You're going to have transfer of DNA, transfer of hairs and fibers, like moving upward and downward. How complicit were they? That will be depending on how the investigation goes. I can't say because I'm not part of the investigation, but and Manny said it too. Nothing is left to chance. You leave that open mind to see where it goes. And if there's a nexus or a connectivity to them with Rex's, beside DNA, with Rex's involvement in the murder of these women, and again, this is all allegations. And if they're involved, they'll find out. I mean, that's what the evidence will do. Let the facts and evidence lead to that area.
Yeah. If you guys have questions, we're just going to stay on a few more minutes. Please put them in the chat with the triple Q. I'll go down to the bottom and I'll throw out a couple of questions too. You're not going to get two better guests on this. Both retired NYPD detectives, best law enforcement agency in the world, maybe the biggest too. But Manny, I asked David this, but I'm just so curious about this. If you're a detective working this case right now, when you go back to the office after this press conference, if they were watching it, what do they like? What are they doing? Are they on the phone? Are they knocking on doors? Are they looking stuff up? What do you think they're doing right now? This far into it?
Yeah, you don't stop, Joel. You don't stop. This is something they're gonna see. Did we miss anything? Let's go over everything again. Let's see if was there one more witness that we missed. Was there somebody else we didn't talk to? So you go back and you look at everything you got and you try to make sure that you got a good case so that we can definitely, convict these guys, especially on the ones that they have, and there may be more.
Do you guys have like a weekly meeting for the detectives involved, a monthly? Like, how often are you like?
It's not weekly. I think we talk all the time, depending on what goes on. I'll call if I have some. I'll call David in the middle of the night. You know what I'm saying? I'll wake him up and say, "Listen, I just found this. We've been working on it together." I may wake him up and say, "Listen, look what I found. Let's talk." So
yeah. It is amazing to hear that. David, to you, there is this thing called the Frye hearing, FRYE. Ray Tierney said it should happen by the end of January. There's two issues here: the technology, the DNA, and then also he said he's expecting the defense to ask to sever some of the cases. That's a horrible word, by the way, in this particular case, but that's a legal term because we've got 7 victims here. What are the chances that these trials get broken up for different victims, David? And also, what about that Frye hearing?
Well, the Frye hearing, any hearing, you're going to have the evidence brought to the judge. The judge will decide whether or not to suppress or allow the evidence. And what you're dealing with now is, will they sever cases? That's up to the judge to determine based on this. You have, again, and I think the prosecution is going to obviously want to keep everything together. and the defense wants to keep it separate, it'll be up to the judicial decision. Judges have discretion in this, and I will leave it up to the judge to render that a decision, because I can't. But I will tell you that, you know, everything's going to be questioned. Every motion, every chance that the defense can do to stall, to push, to find a way to create doubt that their client was the one who did a murder or 7, and maybe the severance will probably that will look to avoid this. Let's go with the 1. I mean, that's going to be what they're going to fight, and the judge will determine whether or not, by the totality of the facts that he sees in front of him.
IGG Rocks is right about this. Guest detectives don't get to put their phones on sleep mode at night. Definitely not while they're working a case. It is a 24-hour job, as you heard, and it is a labor of love more than it is obviously a job for these guys who take it really seriously. A final thing here, and then we'll get some final thoughts. Trial date. So everyone's asking, when is this trial going to happen? When is this trial going to happen? The judge is Timothy Mazzei. Judge Timothy Mazzei. He's got a reputation for pushing things along, being quite aggressive. Manny, if you had a guess, I mean, and I know it's a huge guess, when do you think this stuff starts to get adjudicated in a court of law?
I think because of with this SMP and this Friday hearing they're going to do, I think everything will start like in March. I think once this other process is out of the way, I think by March they're going to start this case and go forward.
David, this question will be for you, and then we'll get some final thoughts from Anna Mabel Quintanilla. Good day to all. Are all 7 charges brought together? If 6 cases are not strong, but in one case Rex Schuerman's guilt is undeniable, does that one charge send him to jail? Thanks.
Well, again, you're dealing with, you know, we've had pattern cases, and usually the strongest case will be the one that the lead case in this is the murder investigation. There's enough evidence to, you know, the prosecution believes there's enough evidence to arrest him and indict him, which is beneficial, because sometimes what cops think is enough isn't enough by the prosecution standard, because we both work on different aspects. You know, I may not say this too, we work on probable cause. We've always worked on, which is a lesser burden of proof than beyond a reasonable doubt. So you have Tierney working this hand in hand with the detectives, and they believe this case will be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and they're going to work to make sure it is. And that's why the codependence on both investigator or police and the district attorney's office is paramount to that. And that's why this case is going to be, if it's in the spring, hopefully it's in the spring, we'll see where it goes. You know, would they be separated? That's up to the process. It's up to the judge and the prosecution, because we've seen, you know, we saw going way off with the Daniel Penny trial, and when the prosecution pulled off the manslaughter charge because they didn't think they were going to get anything out of it, so they knocked the charge out, and the judge agreed to take that charge out. And you know, that was they thought the weaker charge would have gotten a conviction. It didn't. But I don't know. The way I see DA Tierney working this, and the way in which it has been very meticulous, I don't think they're going to separate the case. But that's not up to me to make that decision.
Yep. Interesting. So we are looking at the victims here. I'm just going to say their names. That's something that Gloria Allred said here. Maureen Brainerd Barnes. They all had family members present. Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello. The 2 most recent prior to this one, Sandra Costilla and Jessica Taylor. And then, of course, today you add a 7th, Valerie Mack. Hopefully someone is saying it will not be 7 trials. You don't want to put the families, because even if it's not their family member, they're going to have to deal with all the evidence and all this coming back up. Let's end it this way. You know, all the attention is on the 6'6" ogre. So let's forget him. And Manny, your final thoughts today. What would you say to these family members? What would you like to say to them?
My heart goes out to them, and I definitely understand their pain. And there's a process, and not to give up. You know, these guys are going to work hard to make sure they convict this guy.
Yeah. By the way, if you appreciate the content, please hit like, subscribe. We're coming back at 7 o'clock tonight. And by the way, on the Patreon page, the COE will be putting in the superseding indictment, whatever the bail document was. That stuff all goes into Patreon, where you can support us as well. Tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern, we're looking at a quadruple set of demented minds. The Alexander brothers here in Miami and their cousin, who are actually committing a lot of these crimes allegedly in New York City as well, where the NYPD is doing horrendous things to women, a la Sean Diddy Combs. Well, FBI agent at a hearing came out, said she's interviewed at least 40 more people, and they're all credible. Another victim has just come forward, so we're going to update that case with some amazing lawyers tonight. David Sarney, also retired NYPD detective. You're looking at the victims here. Again, what would you like to leave the family with today?
Just know that I think with anyone in when it comes to police work, and sometimes cops are very jaded, very gallows humor. The work that was done on this was done to get the truth, and that's really what it comes down to. No family is forgotten. No victim is forgotten. That's detectives do their job because they're doing it to speak for those who can't speak, to do what's right. And justice is very arbitrary in certain things, but the detectives and law enforcement looks to do the right thing for everybody, and understand what the investigators did during this time, the prosecutors this time, is to make sure that the right thing is done and you're not forgotten. And this is why and Manny said it best, this is why detectives do what they do. This is why cops do what they do. We're here to help. We're not looking to do anything else, but we want to kind of give voice to the voiceless. And in this case, with this ongoing investigation, that's what's happening.
And oftentimes the first people to get kind of kicked when they're down are the police. People love to beat up on the police. And you look at these guys who dedicate literally their lives, and trust me, they're not making what Jeff Bezos makes. Not close, but these guys are the real heroes. We're looking up to the people like Sean Diddy Combs, but you should be looking up to Manny Matos and David Sarney instead, and other law enforcement officials. Are there a couple of bad apples? Sure, but there are bad chiropractors, accountants, everything else. The vast majority of these guys are doing it all for the right reason and dedicating their lives to it. So thank you to them. Thank you to SDS Nation, the COE, Space Coast. Steve Cohen gets the best guests, the mods. We'll see you at 7 o'clock on the Alexander Brothers. Love you, America. And love you, New York, Long Island, and justice for Valerie Mack, the latest victim, as well as all the others. See you at 7 p.m.